Hello, Sir Clifford. Enough callbacks to Listerine adverts. Google it! I am Adrian Lacey in the southeast of England, and I don't care who knows. And he is Shane O'Connor in the Midlands, and nobody knows. But it's suddenly on the map, isn't it? Your lot with all those athletics
both people
going
have turned
on.
up for the Commonwealth Games. They go and sit in there. They've only spent £57 billion, Birmingham City Council, to buy a new deck chair.
Oh, don't be such a negative Nora. You love the attention. Anyway, we digress. Now, look, we are going to put on the notional slab of comedy, and if you're new to the concept, let me relay it to you, or lay it out for the first time. We have the marble upon which we put a different comedy each week, be it TV, radio, or podcast, internet, digital, however it lands in our lap. We put it on the slab, we prod it about a bit with our scalpels, and we put on the green gowns, and we try and see if we can revive it, if it feels like it. Shall I stop this imagery now? I'm mired in it. We are slabbing Series 1, Episode 1, so we're getting in at the ground floor of Hacks. We'll get to that in just a mo. It's sort of Joan Rivers meets young sassy writer, but we'll dig into that a bit later on. Now, we normally dig into some comedy news before we get to the show proper that we're putting on the mortuary slab, as it turns out, unfortunately. Yeah. But I don't know if you saw on our Twitter feed, the wonderfully named Blair Carlton, who is, and that is his genuine name, it's just too good to be true. Was it, you said it sounded like a really classy car, which I think is a compliment.
Yes, I've got a 1963 Blair Carlton.
That's it.
In midnight blue.
Sedan?
Yes.
Sedan, you're going to hit your head on that bridge.
Sedan Carlton, that's his brother.
Anyway, Blair, thank you very much for retweeting something which then, in response to, it's a long story, but essentially I tweeted a sketch which hopefully a fair few of our listeners will know, or if they don't, they can go to @ComedySlab on Twitter. It should be following us already, but if you're not, you could try and do it now. And, well, not this entire instant. Hear the show first and then go to @ComedySlab on Twitter and follow us there. And the mini sketch, or an excerpt from a sketch from The Files Show, which I retweeted. Do you remember Colin Hunt, played by Charlie Hickson, with a lovely bubbly wig?
Yeah, he was the Office comedian, and I'm using air quotes there.
You did put air quotes, but it made me think, even as you said that, minus the curly wig, I could see you as the office joker, because you have had office jobs in the past when you used to do proper jobs.
No, I'm not like, no, that's not me at all. No.
Is it not?
No, I wouldn't mind the wig, but that's another story for another day.
Okay, well, anyway, Colin Hunt is the office joker, and in this sketch, he has just seen his favourite TV show last night. Now, I think the setup is there's a new character, and he is Mr. Pork, or he's obsessed with pork. Pork! He's obsessed with pork!
Isn't I remember watching this, isn't this a dig at themselves and their catchphrase comedy?
Well, you could read it that way. I mean, I didn't go meta as you appear to have done. But the further twist is, which is why I'm mentioning it, it's like I'm doing a request for Blair, which I'm always happy to do, because he's so positive about our show, even if you aren't positive about every other show. Well, anyway, I was actually working on that edition of the show, and I was actually up on my sound boom, and I had the joy and privilege, and to this day, and I still remember when he breaks right, because obviously you've got to keep ahead of the game here. I was following a script, as we do. So you have your script, and you realise just how talented actors are. When they get to a TV studio, when they're at that level, they're not just ad-libbing, although they can do. They've obviously got that in their toolbox. But they equally know they've got to go line by line. Otherwise, you completely mess up the vision mixing, the camera operation, and, yes, the sound operation. So word for word, he's doing his bit, and I just remember him breaking right to the filing cabinet, and it might sound very dreary, having said it's all showbiz and flashing lights and all of that, but you've got to be on your mettle for just as he needs to know his words, I need to know when he's going to deliver them and where. And the old thing of actors, learn your lines and don't bump into the furniture, unless of course it says in the script bump into the furniture. Which, of course, may be comedic capital. I don't know how much Blair wanted me to elaborate, but I am, of course, I can be a complete pub bore about it, but I'll spare you that. I just wanted to share, if I may. May I share a little more? Which is to say that it's a little technical gem for Blair and anyone else who's interested, which is that, can you think of what potentially could be a sound problem in the very specific setting where you've got, as we did have, a live studio audience? What might be what have I got to be aware of as a sound op? I'm saying in the present tense, this is 20 plus years ago, but can you think something that could be it doesn't ruin the thing, but it takes the edge off it if you don't have that finesse to be aware of a sound problem.
Well, you mentioned the filing cabinet. Did he go over and open the drawer?
He did open the drawer. I was thinking more relating to the studio audience. I mean, how are they going to know when to laugh and all of that in sound terms? How do they hear what I'm doing on the boom?
Through their ears.
Yeah, absolutely through their ears.
They've got to have ears. They've got to have ears. You've got to be aware that they've got ears.
Lend me your ear. Are you deliberately ignoring the PA that we have to rig as well? It's not just gardening, as Vic and Bob once said. Yeah. It's not just operating a boom. In the mornings, we had to rig up the
It was
the
a bit
PA.
like that kind of, and the actors can't go on without what? A floor. Are you ignoring the fact that there's a floor that they have to stand on? It was a bit
Okay,
like that.
okay. Sometimes, but sometimes the obvious isn't always immediately obvious.
Right.
Anyway, so the problem with that is what happens if you point a mic, if you were to do such a thing, at the PA that's carrying that mic's output.
This is like being back at school again. I spent 5 years at secondary school thinking, I don't understand what the question is. What are they asking me?
Stop picking your nose and answer.
Feedback,
exactly. Now, before you get feedback, there is something called coloration, which is, it's odd that we use visual metaphors to describe sound problems. But so what we had to do, when you have a PA, you've got to point the mic away from the PA.
It kind of goes out of phase, doesn't it? It kind of get a phase.
Yes. And it's a nasty thing that you don't want because it complicates the sound and it muddies the sound, really, I suppose. Now, there was one occasion. So if, for instance, ideally, if there was no PA, I might want to get ahead of Charlie Hickson, Colin Hunt, and point back to him as he's at the filing cabinet. But you can't do that because you'd then be pointing straight back at the PA that's carrying your sound. Blair, are you still with this? I'm doing this just for you, mate. So instead of doing that, I have to sort of go over Charlie's head and point down to get... I've overdone it, haven't I, with the technicalities? Anyway, there was one occasion where... I did an episode of Bread which didn't have any PA, and I'm not going to ask you why you think that because that would be another half hour. The reason was, sadly, we had to cancel the show because of a strike the previous day on the Sunday. Very often we used to do sitcoms on a Sunday when theatres were dark. So what we did, we remounted, as they say in that glorious term, the show on the Monday without an audience because you couldn't get people that at short notice, and they'd be working, so quite possibly, or other plans.
And it was Bread.
Well, Bread, only the most popular sitcom of its time. I'm not going to tolerate that. 28 million, I think it did. No, that might be slightly.
There were only 3 channels though, and one of them was black and white. But you've got your 80s memorabilia all wrong. There were 4 channels. We should do Bread. We should put Bread on the Slab, definitely. Go on.
But I don't think you should be beastly. Don't be beastly. But anyway. I thought you were going to pick me up on that. Well, the BBC says it's always showing a studio, show with laughter onto a live studio audience. They actually got in an audience to watch the recording, which we did once it was edited. So, sorry, what was your point? What was the middle of it?
I said I don't talk like that. Anyway, get on with the story because I'm really fed up now.
That's Ozzy Osbourne, as I live and breathe. Anyway, I'll finish this if it kills me, and it very nearly has.
Sharon.
On that day, on the Monday, without the studio audience, I was finally free. It's the only sitcom. That's why it sticks in the memory. It's the only sitcom where I've never had to worry about coloration from the PA, and I could put my goddamn mic where I goddamn pleased. Now, that
nice.
Won't mean much to you, but it meant an awful lot to me as a sound engineer. Well, thank you, Blair. That was all for you. But I believe you got something altogether more solemn.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to just say, because his contribution to the comedic landscape should not be underestimated. The news of the sad passing of Bernard Cribbins, and a particular heartfelt shout out from me, because a couple of things really. I tweeted through our Comedy Slab Twitter feed that, you know, not only did he entertain me as a kid, but he ended up entertaining my kids as well, which is just
what a career. Well, you know, it just suggests the span of the career.
But more than that, he was best, or can be best remembered, although he's done such great work, he can be best remembered for championing one of my favourite genres, the comedy record.
The gramophone disc
with the Right Said Fred, and There I Was Digging a Hole, and you know those. And in fact, he did whole albums. In fact, I've got albums here of Bernard Cribbins
digging a whole album.
Yeah, digging a whole album.
That was you digging a whole album, man.
But yeah, sad news, isn't it? Really, and particularly poignant for me because I don't know why, but I used to watch it. My kids used to watch the Captain Jack thing that he used to do. When he was doing that, he kind of started to grow this kind of wispy grey beard, and he put me in mind very much of my late father.
Oh, really?
And I used to find it really quite troubling at first when I watched it, because he looked just like Dad and that, and but you know, eventually you kind of come round, and the kids loved it, and they never kind of noticed it or said anything, which I'm sure if they had done, Frank particularly would have done that. But yeah, I just thought, you know, it's when you look at his body of work and serious acting as well, he got the acting chops, hadn't he? You know, so sad, great life, sad loss, and an ex-para, so you can't knock the bloke.
Absolutely,
because you come around and punch your lights out,
or just land on you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we must move to the main business in hand, which is a show called Hacks. And when I put it on the slab for you last week, I'm bound to ask you this. I don't think, if I remember correctly, you hadn't heard of it before, had you? So,
not a clue. No.
You were pretty open-minded about it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I hadn't even seen a trailer. That's how out of the loop I was. But I mean, you can get like that, can't you? If you're not on the, I think wasn't this on Hulu in the US or something? And then when you'd seen it in a weird place, hadn't you? Where did you see it in the UK? Where was that?
Amazon Prime, which I accidentally ended up with a subscription of, because they're very sneaky with if you hit the wrong button for free postage and packing. You know, I'm a sucker for a freebie, and they got me. But if you check with Money Saving Expert, the wonderful Martin Lewis tells you how to desubscribe and even get compensation if you felt you were hard done by. But by then I was in too deep.
Yeah. But then he watched 6 series of it, so yeah.
Yeah. So the lead character is very similar. I'm pretty sure it's unashamedly based on Joan Rivers, which I have no problem with at all. It's even there in the rasp of the voice. I don't know if you noticed that at various points.
Well, it isn't actually.
Oh, okay.
But
feel free to contradict me. That's fine. I'm relaxed.
Should we do that later? Because it's a rather convoluted set of people that it is based on.
Okay.
I mean, it is based on her, but not solely on her.
That's fine. We'll get into the weeds of that later. So let me set up the first of 2 audio clips. And even while I was watching it a second time, I thought, have I given you the best audio clips? But I think that's probably a nice problem to have, that you could choose several clips. But unfortunately, we've only got time for 2. And so this is setting the scene. I'm going to ask you afterwards, as well as to give me a tabloid headline, Shane, I'm also going to ask you what it reminds you of in terms of the setup. But we are in some kind of restaurant where, actually, we're in Vegas, aren't we? Where she's had a residency for, well, we'll find out how many shows for. And there could be changes afoot, and it's the boss of the place, or at least head of entertainment there at that particular venue, who is breaking the news to her over a working, I think it's lunch or evening meal, one of the two. And it sounds a little like this.
You know, you'll always be a part of the Palmetto's history. But maybe it'd be good if you did a few less shows a year.
Good for who?
Yeah, I need some marquee dates for a new acts. Like Pentatonics.
What the hell's that?
They're a beatbox forward a cappella group. They do medleys. They won the sing-off.
Who gives a
Look, I have 2 buckets to fill. Families and idiots in their 20s. The families want to see singing and dancing, and the college kids want to spend $1,000 to watch a guy in a helmet hit play and an iPod.
You're forgetting about your 3rd bucket. People from Florida. They love me. And my numbers are strong.
You'll still be doing shows, just not Friday and Saturday.
Oh, just the most important nights. Unbelievable.
Deb, why do you even want to do 100+ shows a year? It's not like you're having fun. I mean, you're on cruise control up there.
Wish I was on cruise control. I've been playing defense my entire career, thanks to assholes like you.
Deborah, calm down.
Oh, what do
please.
you care? You own the place. The service sucks.
Great.
Where's my doggy bag?
I thought I knew him, you know, the guy, Marty, the guy who's he's the hotel owner or runner or whatever, yeah. But I don't, do you know him? Have you seen him in other stuff? I'm not really quite...
I don't think he particularly rang a bell with me, but then I've got face blindness, name amnesia, I nearly forgot what the term for it was, and I don't watch an awful lot. But apart from that, everything's on my side.
He's been in quite a few things that you might have seen him in, something like Happy Gilmore, Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise. That's a little while ago now, though, isn't
Harry's
it?
Law. Yeah, but well, I mean, he's been going ever since. I mean, he didn't do that and then stop. But
I didn't imply he was, but for me to remember from about, 1988? I remember the last word.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm giving the ending away. What we need from you, that's of Thelma and Louise, what we need from you is a tabloid headline and something else I asked as well. Oh, yes, I think we've covered Marty, the CEO. So the tabloid headline.
My tabloid headline was hacked off, but not completely.
Oh, I nearly dove in too quickly there.
Yeah. I reeled you in, didn't I? Yeah.
Well, the other week I accused you of a city on the fence type headline.
Yeah.
Would you accept that sounds city on the fence?
I think I should really get a job painting the lines on the middle of the road because I spend so much time out there.
Yeah. Don't sit on them till they're dry. I
flip-flopped a bit with this, Adrian. I don't know whether you did, but I kind of, at certain points, I'm thinking, oh, I'm quite enjoying this. At other points, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not enjoying this quite so much now. I fell in and out of love with the characters on a regular basis throughout, and then people that I loved at the start, I hated at the end, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So it was quite a roller coaster in that sense. And I mean, you know, and so I wouldn't knock it for that. But as to whether I enjoyed it, I came away thinking I don't really know whether I did. I kind of sat through it. I'm not sure that I enjoyed it though. Am I saying something completely alien there? Or
no, not at all. I'm an alien. I'm an alien. You really have got to see that Colin Hunt sketch. But I digress. Oh, sorry, I am going to digress again, but then I will come back to pick up your point. Before I forget, the production credits, I'm afraid it's a cast list in its own right. First Thought, Paulilu, Femulon.
You're just making that up now.
I'm not.
That's just a noise.
Gibberish. 3 Arts Entertainment. Oh, that was the question I had to ask you. That's a clue. 3 Arts Entertainment and Universal Television. And yes, Universal credits as well. Yeah. Right. So what did that remind you of? And then I'll respond to your point.
The opening, the only thing that, I don't think this is what you're asking, but the very start of it reminded me of Louis. Do you remember Louis that we slabbed with Louis C.K.?
Yes, now, I remember slabbing it, but I can't remember. I'd need some jolting as to the setup.
There was him and his daughter, and as a stand-up comedian, it was intercut with him performing in comedy shows, comedy stores. And that's what immediately put me when, you can see her from I really like that shot they did at the back.
Yeah.
Where
they open up with seeing her perform, but from behind.
But from behind, and you don't actually see, it's a minute and a half, 1 minute 40 seconds until you actually see her face, and then you only see it in the mirror, suggesting maybe that she's two-faced. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I thought I really like that. I wanted to go back and watch that a few times just to see how they.
Yeah.
You follow her off stage, don't you? And she's meeting people. You don't actually see her. It's very clever.
Someone said the other day, I think it was in my writing group, which was that we, meaning us as viewers, us as human beings, we love going behind the curtain, don't we? And we literally were on the stage with her, but from behind. Small point, sorry, there's so many strands to my thoughts about this show. It was 3 plays of her opening gag before I heard the punchline. Did you struggle with that?
I
was
struggled
totally buried under, it was badly articulated, it was rushed, and it was buried under laughter. And and
she wasn't. I thought Hannah Einbinder, who plays Ava, the young writer, I thought I couldn't understand a lot of what she was saying in her payoff lines.
Well, it's that sort of intimate delivery that is sometimes a bit too intimate. But the gag was about Melissa Etheridge, which, I mean, that's okay. It makes sense to people of a certain age, of a certain musical taste. Did you get the gag?
No.
Melissa Etheridge happens to be gay, and the only reason the gag works is because it's an allusion to her, our Joan Rivers character being in a clinch, shall we say, a heterosexual clinch that's making her think even about her sexuality. That's the joke, in a sense.
Right.
But I had the joy of working with Melissa Etheridge. I think it was only afterwards. It was neither here nor there whether she was gay. But she's not a huge artist to build a gag around. But hey.
No. I mean, if you knew her body of her work, you probably wouldn't know her private life, would you?
Not necessarily at all. No. You just like the music or you don't like the music. Anyway, I was thinking of the famous Foxtrot restaurant. I was trying to have another week when we don't mention Alan Partridge, but it just seemed like, give me a second series. Yeah. It really was that, because every performer's going to have that conversation. I've even had it as a continuity announcer. They brought me in specially to Discovery Channel, which I'm not going to mention by name, and they brought me in to look at the new, again, it's getting a bit technical, but they're called idents in the trade. Where you hear the announcement, it's the visuals that accompany the announcement. So they had brand new graphics. I'm freelance. I want to carry on working for said channel. You're not going to say, oh, I don't like that colour very much. I was really positive about it. And at the end of playing them, this new, it's like we're going to revamp our news output.
Yeah.
Again, that's a Foxtrot reference. And at the end of it, she said, yes, and to go with our new graphics, we're going to have a new announcer. So it brought me in, specially, into the office to tell me they were sacking me. I thought well, it was one of those occasions where you didn't actually need to be there in the flesh. And I still had 2 other channels I was doing for them.
Yeah. What happens in that situation? Do you go, and now in the office, I'm leaving?
Up yours.
Yes.
Well, if it hadn't been for the fact that I had 2 other channels I wanted to cling on to that I was doing for them, because, at one point I was doing 3 channels for them, and I was doing Radio 3 and Channel 5, and my cup was overflowing at that stage. So, you don't want to upset them, but and also, taking the long view, she might move on to another channel that I want to work on. So you bite your tongue. Yeah. But there's a very strong temptation to do what our hero did, our heroine, in this situation, Jean Smart as Deborah Vance. Did you want to talk about the other influences? I said I thought it was pretty much a straight Joan Rivers read across, but it's more complicated.
It prompted me to do a little bit of digging. And found an article saying, because I think a lot of people had asked the question, as we have, is it based on Joan Rivers? They don't actually mention Joan Rivers in in the quote by somebody called Downs. I'm not really quite sure whether it's the creator. I'd have to look them up. It's Paul W. Downs, who's one of the creators.
Right.
Was interviewed and asked about this. He said, right, who's the inspiration? And he said that she started as a stage act with her then partner, kind of like a Nichols and May. So there's Elaine May in there, he said.
Oh, yeah.
She had a famous sitcom and then a very public divorce, not unlike Lucille Ball. He said, we also threw on Phyllis Diller. Sorry, he does mention Joan Rivers and Joan Rivers.
Yeah. But only as part of a mix.
Yes. Although Phyllis Diller and Joan Rivers had a very similar kind of brash, sort of in-your-face style, didn't they, I suppose, in a way? Although...
Well, I was thinking only, it's funny you should say that. I'm pretty ignorant about her, other than there's a Bill Hicks reference to her. The late American shock comic died in about 91, 92. He was only in his early 30s, but he did a joke about how he had to explain to his parents, who were good God-fearing Baptists in the South, had to explain to them why he swore so much. But now you saying that Phyllis Diller was like a Joan Rivers. I thought the joke was that I thought the joke he said to his dad was that even Phyllis Diller would have to swear, the kind of venues I play.
Right.
But
I know she used bad language. I mean, Joan Rivers never used bad language, did she? I don't think.
Guess not, but there were lots of she didn't pull her punches in terms of subject matter.
Some subject matter was great, yeah. Elaine Boosler was another one, Rita Rudner and Paula Poundstone.
I had time for Rita Rudner. Yeah, so that's an interesting mix, isn't it? It's pretty much every female stand-up you could think of for a certain era.
I mean, but then he went on to ruin the quote by saying so many female stand-ups that didn't get the recognition that some of their white male counterparts did, trying to jump on that bandwagon, presumably, because he just mentioned a whole raft of women comics who were successful in their own right and made it to the very top. So you're talking out your hat there a bit, Mr. Downs, aren't you, really? But anyway, so, so a big amalgam is what they're saying. But yeah, Rivers is definitely in there. But it's funny that both you and I thought Joan Rivers, first thing we said, wasn't it, really? Well,
I have to say, I was steered that way by the wonderful Joss, my mate, who's a wonderful, loyal Slab fan. Thank you once again, Joss, for recommending this. But she said it and the only reference she made was Joan Rivers. I think it's there, as I was saying earlier on, I think it's there in the voice, just that rasp. When she really goes for it. Like that. But you could reference other female artists and male artists who go for a rasp. It's part of the toolkit. I think it's time to move to our second audio clip, don't you?
Oh, go on.
Yes, what to say about this? So this is where I was viewing the show again and thought, should I have included some other characters? And apologies, you don't get the joys of... it's a manager-type character, isn't it? Sorry, I'm lousy with names. But you were telling me, were you not earlier, Shane, reminding me who I meant to say? Was it Jimmy?
You meant Jimmy, the manager, wasn't he? Yeah, it was her manager.
Yeah. So you'll have to explore Jimmy in your own time, I'm afraid, because what I wanted to do...
I'm glad you mentioned Jimmy, actually, because Jimmy is played by Paul W. Downs, one of the creators, the guy that we were talking about that we just quoted.
Oh, right. No, I hadn't twigged. Oh, yes. I'm so glad you're on the case with you and your knowledge of names and research. Yeah, brilliant. Right, okay. And the creators are... You'll see the way it. If you see the show, you see actually there's a fade in the credits, which is rare, where it fades through between the creators to the writers, and it can fade, and it's only the title, the job title that changes because all three creators are the writers as well. So yeah, apologies about that. But what I wanted to play you was. The audio from a scene where, spoiler alert, but I think we saw this coming. The writer, Ava Daniels, played by Hannah Einbinder. Am I saying that correctly? Einbinder? A down-on-her-luck comedy writer where she gets together with Deborah Vance, who is, as it turns out, a bit of a down-on-her-luck or towards the tail end of her career, or is she? Stand-up comedian. So... Ava has visited Deborah's huge, impressive palace. There's been a falling out. She's driven off, and then, lo and behold, a very posh Bentley, I think, if not a Rolls-Royce, comes tearing down the drive, nearly collides with her, and who should get out but Deborah. And what you need to know as part of the setup here is they're talking about the joke that got Ava sort of cancelled, went a bit too far, referencing a politician's son who'd come out as gay or been outed as gay. And Deborah Vance was effectively saying, no, that you shouldn't have got cancelled for that particular gag. It wasn't a particularly brilliant gag. This is the gag you should have done. And between them, well, we can see a chemistry in the making.
Oh, my God. Sending your son to the woods with a bunch of other horny gay teens? The only thing you're going to convert him to is from a top to a bottom.
Okay.
Now that's a better joke.
Oh my God, that's why you almost just killed me?
Wait. No. We keep it on the dad. Senator Rogers has been in the closet so long, his wife keeps trying to donate him to Goodwill.
Okay, to be clear, these are all problematic. What if it's something like Senator Rogers has been in the closet so long all his friends are mothballs?
Mothballs. Senator Rogers has been in the closet so long, he shits mothballs.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, can I go now?
No, you're hired.
Wait, what? I said I didn't want the job.
Yeah, well, you need it. Write me 20 jokes before tomorrow morning. Oh, and nothing about pantyhose or the Challenger explosion. I've done them all.
What the fuck just happened?
It's interesting that it was at that point that I realised that they are painting cancel culture in a sympathetic light, and by that I mean sympathetic to the victim that's being cancelled, which for an industry that has championed this as a way of putting people out to pasture before they're ready to go, I found quite interesting, really, that you know, I kind of wondered. I know how the public will probably take it, but I wonder what the rest of the industry thinks of the way that they're, you know, trying to make a sympathetic character out of somebody who presumably the industry would want us to see as a pariah.
Well, there's a lot there as well. I don't see what's called cancel culture is a weighted term anyway, isn't it? I don't think you should be able to have mainstream success doing racist and jokes about beating up wives, which, you know, was the stuff of mainstream TV. Some of the times, it's obviously not the full story at all, never was. I think it's more complicated, and I think it's a bit more nuanced. But it's interesting that you've raised that, because I hadn't kind of unpicked it from that angle.
It was only at that point that I kind of and I thought, oh yeah, they're trying to make it a sympathy. I mean, you know, I'm as I've said to you before, I'm with Rowan Atkinson on this. I believe that there is nothing off limits. I think that if somebody tells a joke about something, that doesn't advocate that happening. Do you know what I mean? There's a different.
Yeah, and that's often Ricky Gervais's line. The joke about it is not as bad as the bad thing.
No, and neither is it neither is it encouraging the bad thing or saying that the bad thing is right. Or I mean, but
Ricky. Okay, interesting. Just to pick up quickly on Ricky Gervais, actually rode back from using what I'm going to call the M word of people with Down syndrome. And I believe he did apologise about that. So he's aware of certain limits there. I don't know that Rowan Atkinson would. I know he's talked a lot about free speech, but the point is, it's qualified free speech. I mean, the old cliche is you don't shout fire in a theatre unless there is actually a fire in the theatre. There are limits to speech. I mean, I think our libel laws are too fierce, but neither should a powerful person be able to totally trash someone's career. And this is where we might have common ground, because sometimes that has happened in the world of comedy. We've talked about it before. I think it's complicated.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, there is. Yeah, it's definitely nuanced. It's definitely complicated. I mean, the other thing is contextually. If somebody said, "Oh, there's a fire in the theatre," in the middle of a comedy stand-up routine. It's the context in which they say that, isn't it? Which you know.
You think they should wait for the punchline?
Yeah. Ding dong. That's the fire alarm.
Very good, Leslie Phillips.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're talking about the industry as if there's one industry with one homogenous voice. There is a culture. And
Hollywood, I think I'm talking about, really. Yeah, probably more than the industry.
But even Hollywood, surely it would split between people who are, I mean, even I'm broad brush stroking it, but you could say there's a generational element, isn't there? It's not as straightforward as saying older people are pro and younger people are anti, but there is an age twist to it.
I don't think there is. I think it's very distorted. I mean, in private, I think you're probably right. What people think in private, but I think it's highly distorted because it's a mob. And to stand up to a mob, whoever you are, is an immensely difficult thing to do. And some people would call it brave to do that, and some people would call it foolhardy. If you want a career, and you're prepared to roll the dice and stand up to the mob, then good luck to you. The two are often exclusive, as it were. So. To just simply say, oh, well, I think some people think this. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that it's absolutely abhorrent, but are too damn scared to say anything for fear that they will be the ones that will be cancelled next. I think it's what I thought was interesting was that I didn't kind of believe that this old comedian would get with this young writer who was tainted in such a way because she'd think, I've only got so long to go. I'm already being semi-cancelled by the theatre, by the hotel complex that I'm playing in. I don't want to touch it with a barge pole. Do you know what I mean?
So you felt there was a credibility problem there.
A little bit.
Yeah, and we should say the joke is actually the joke she's got quotes cancelled for is she says her justification is I was going for him for hypocrisy. Because the senator had got caught in flagrante with a bloke or something along those lines. So it's the fact that the senator was disowning the gay son or something like that. So anyway, we probably haven't got too much more time to dissect that on our slab. Was there any other business before we go to scores?
Yeah, and on the similar kind of vein, and then you see her scrolling through some of her personal photos of her kissing another girl just before she sleeps with the delivery guy, and I'm thinking, are you saying though she couldn't have been homophobic because she's a lesbian at weekends, or do you know what I mean? Is she?
But was she thought to be homophobic even, just to pick up on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the cancellation, wasn't it? That it was homophobic. I thought that's what I felt it was. I don't.
No, I think you're right. But what we're demonstrating at great length is potentially quite a lot to dig into as a viewer. I was going to say, actually, when you said you sort of blew hot and cold, or whatever phrase you used about it at various points. I was going to say I ended up enjoying it more as almost at a documentary level. I know we're not normal civilians, being Slab podcasters. We enjoy comedy, just like normal civilians. But we've also got the pointy head, as I call it every now and again, where we do dissect it on the Slab. And I mean, I find that fascinating because having worked in comedy, not as a comedy writer, attempted comedy writer, but lapsed, I think would be the kindest phrase. But knowing, and we talk about, coming back to Partridge again, how they laugh amongst themselves and then try and reproduce that laugh and roll back the tape where they've been bouncing around ideas. I found that dissection within the show fascinating, which we've just heard in effect. I can imagine a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it because it's well, tell us some jokes and make me laugh kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think if you're just tuning in to be made to laugh, you might be disappointed.
I think the world that they inhabit, I struggle with a little bit as well. And like the LA connection, if you're in LA, it's like another planet, isn't it? And then she's got a residency at Vegas. I did have a laugh out loud moment where she was really cross about something she saw on an iPad.
Is this the younger writer?
No, the old one, the comedian. She saw something on an iPad that she didn't like. She was watching some news bulletin or something, and she.
Oh no, it was the band, wasn't it, who were replacing her? Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. She had no idea who they were, but she threw it up in the air, and the iPad landed in the pool, and she just shouted, "Damien, I need you to go to the computer store." That
was lovely. But did you feel that was a sort of updating of Keith Moon and the rock and roll stories with swimming pools and TVs?
Yeah.
I thought, that was lovely. That was LOL, as you say.
Yeah, like that.
Right. I'm going to ask you, stick your neck out and do your funky chicken, and let me know what your score out of 5 for this comic masterpiece or dusterpiece is.
You started off by accusing me of being a fence sitter. And I think that's where I've ended up. And
I'll take offence.
Don't take offence. Take the whole gate. And I kind of ended up thinking, that's where I'm going to finish up. Putting the white lines in the middle of the road. 2.5 out of 5 for me, straight in the middle. Because in the same way that you said, it had an odd effect on me where I kind of didn't come away hating it and thinking I really resent it for wasting my time. But equally, I felt there was something that kind of didn't sit well with me. So 2.5 out of 5 for me. Okay.
I trusted. Do you ever get voices in your head? I must change my medication.
Yours mainly.
That's as it should be when we're recording.
Oh, right, okay. It means the headphones are working, doesn't it? Sorry.
It just going with the first impulse rather than.
Yeah,
I spend my life overthinking everything. Which shoes shall I wear today? Which socks? Am I wearing shorts? So I want short socks. But which trainers? Do I check my running train? Are they? And by then, half the day is gone and we haven't done a thing. To quote a phrase, comedy song. So my first thought was 4 out of 5, and then I started overthinking that thought, and then I thought, no, it's telling me something. That's 6.5 out of 10. Thank you, Joss.
Yeah, good call that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you're going to be recalling, or you might recall the show. Are you going back for more?
I don't know if
or hack for more.
Yeah, I think I might, but I've got such a blooming long list of things that I've got to carry on. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. We watch a lot of comedy, but my God,
remaining life gets shorter. Not to be remotely bleak, and the things that you want to do, the queue gets longer.
I know.
I can't square that particular circle. Anyway, let's look to next week's. Assuming we're all still here, let's look to next week's homework. What are you putting on the slab of shame or fame next week?
I am going old school. I think it's 1970s. I couldn't be sure. I'd have to look it up. Although I know
think it's 2022, but not for you, obviously.
This blooming calendar's useless, isn't it? I don't know.
You keep using the same one. That's your trouble. You're tightwad.
Yeah, I don't want to start spending money like this water, do I? I'm going back to the creative work. And you might get it from this. I would get it from this, but I'm a bit of a sad anorak, or a sadrak, as
there are other names for it. But yeah,
I'm going back to the creative work of, and shout out if you know at home, Jim Abrahams and David and Jerry Zucker. They were the creators of what we're going to be watching for next week's homework.
Sounds like I should know them, but it's not me shouting. There's other people shouting who've got better memories than me.
All right, I'll give you another name before I give you the bombshell that you should get it from. The writing work of Pat Proft, amongst others.
I'm afraid that doesn't help.
And the acting work of Leslie Nielsen and Alan North.
Well, you'd already... Leslie Nielsen. Well,
and shall I give you a final musical clue?
It's not Police Squad Academy. I always forget which...
Police Squad, yeah,
Police
absolutely.
Squad with a freeze frame at the end, which isn't a freeze frame.
Which isn't a freeze frame, yeah.
Leslie Nielsen gave it away, and the doyen of Airplane, of course.
There's a fabulous freeze frame. They do one of them at the end where Alan North is pouring a cup of coffee, which of course isn't ever going to work, is it? If it isn't really a freeze frame, it might be on this one. I don't know, but there you go. Anyway, it only ran for one series, unfortunately.
No, really, I thought it was longer.
Oh. No, just one series. Episode 5, because they went on and did Airplane and all the rest of it then after that, you see. But just one series, episode 5, It's a bit confusing because the announcer always calls the episode name one thing and the title comes up on the screen as something else.
Which is the running gag, or one of many. Yeah.
So officially, as far as the announcer is concerned, it's episode 5, Terror in the Neighbourhood. But the graphic actually says Rendezvous at Big Gulch. So
it's one of the two.
It's one of the two, yeah. It's episode 5 anyway of Police Squad.
We haven't got much time left except to say that's it for the Comedy Slab. I hope we don't get cancelled, or you might feel like cancelling me, given what I've said. But I'm still around. Tough. And you?
And me, he'd want to cancel me. I mean, I was never anything to start with in the first place. It's not even worth. The mob can't even be bothered to turn up. That's how uncancelable I am.
But there's Pond Life, which is more evolved than you or me.
And has got a bigger Twitter following.
Cancel it.